Hello, everybody, and welcome to Compassionate Chats. I'm Tanys Coughlan from My Place Home Care, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Heidi Gagne. And we have a special guest today, Christine Forget from Solva Senior Solutions. Welcome, Christine. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's my first podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for
Congratulations.
We're honored. So tell us a little bit about Solva, because it's your company, you're the founder. So let us know a little bit about how that all started. How did you get started with that?
Well, it seems like a long time ago. So I have a unique background, I guess, or that's what people tell me. I grew up in senior housing. My mom was a geriatric nurse. We grew up in Cornwall. A lot of my family worked at the local long-term care facility. My first job was there. And so since then, back when I was 17, I've developed this kind of progressive career. Now, to be honest, I never planned on working with seniors. It was not like the thought of nursing at the time when I was younger was very scary to me. Not so much anymore. As I'm older, I find it very interesting. But I have this progressive career. And so I've worked in long-term care. At one point, I thought I would become an administrator of long-term care, went through the schooling for that. Then I moved to Ottawa, again, worked in long-term care and retirement residences. At the time with long-term care, which I find fascinating, is I didn't actually know when I was in long-term care very much about retirement homes. Like I hadn't, people would come into the long-term care facility and ask me for tours, and they want to move mom in now or dad in now. They're like, mom needs long-term care right now. And you're like, oh, like the system doesn't work that way. And so you're explaining how long-term care works, but I didn't realize there was other options or even transitional options. So then I had the opportunity to move over and worked for Rivera, had again this progressive career where I was at one point a corporate director, a general manager. I've had a lot of different positions, lots of different experience. And so many people going through things with their family would call me up and ask me questions, like a subject matter expert. And they would say, Christine, you need to start a consulting company. And I always said, no, I just don't think people would pay for it. Like, you can do this all on your own. What I'm giving you isn't anything that you can't find out or learn yourself. The difference is that it's going to take you hours and hours and hours and hours, because as a corporate director of sales for one of the biggest companies in Canada, it was my job to convince you to move into retirement home X. That's what we did. And so I was pregnant and I came back from maternity leave and ultimately made the decision to start Solva. And I said to myself, and this was 13 years ago. I said, I don't want to charge people for this. Like I don't, and because I had this background in seniors housing and I had all of I had been in every retirement residence. I had a portfolio of 18 buildings under my scope before I went on maternity leave. I knew how they operated. I knew what they were doing to convince people to move in, all the advertising. Frankly, some of it I created myself. So I went out, sought out and said, hey, retirement home friends, this is what I want to do. I would like you to support the program and cover the cost of the individual search. But on top of that, I didn't ever want it to be deemed that there was an unethical approach to it. I really kind of, now looking back at it, I set up Solva as much to be as independent, impartial, and unbiased as I possibly could. So all the retirement homes would pay the same amount, no matter where you went. It would be the exact same amount, not a percentage, it was the exact same amount. Our team, the advisory team we have, we made sure that everybody on the team had the same level of experience I had. So if the family wasn't talking to me, they were talking to somebody like me that knew how all of this worked, not just from a leasing or salesperson's perspective, but from a retirement home operational perspective. And we did some other things too, but Solva is one of the only ones that doesn't charge, like our team isn't paid commission. They have no sales targets. You just call them and they chat with you. They don't ask for a credit card. They don't ask for any money, no matter what. There's no obligation. And I think we're the only ones out there that do that. And we still do that to this day. I believe that we probably have the most experience and knowledge in terms of our team. We're a small team, and we've helped like thousands of people find retirement homes over the years, thousands. And we take great pride on education. So, we've written a book, we write educational blogs. None of them, to our dismay, are like written in a way to get more clicks or to get more. It's just us sharing our knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still learning. So there's still stuff that comes up that we see and we're like, oh, we got to share this. Like, we need people to know about it. And the things that I've learned along the way, people, when I first started, as an example, I did have a bias in terms of like, oh, I would never send anybody to that retirement home. But the reality is there is a perfect place for everybody. We have over 100 and some different retirement residents that are licensed in Ottawa, and each one serves its purpose for a particular person. And so we take an approach that we're never going to send you to places that you can't afford, or that you can't, like, it's a very holistic approach. So that's kind of our history. I'm really grateful for what we do. I think, my background gives a lot of people can tap into what I know about how this works. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know if that answers. I will ramble on.
No, that's great. It's great to know where you come from and how Solva works. I think that's an important, a very important aspect. So I think that
I know we in my day-to-day. Oh, sorry. I think my internet is a little slow right now because everyone seems to be a little blurby. So I apologize if I over talk somebody.
the joys of technology.
But I was just going to say, I know that in my day-to-day, when we have some clients that might be beyond or looking for more than just home care, and they're looking to move their loved one in. I know we've contacted Solva before, and I think it's a really great resource to have, and knowing that, you're ethical, you're non-biased, and, you're going to help that person find the home that best suits them. So whether that's, what is their memory care like? What is their assisted living progression into assisted living is like? Because, if somebody is moving out of their house, we know that, chances are they're going to need that assisted living a little further, maybe sooner than later. And it's nice to know that there is somebody out there that's going to advocate for that person. And
I think it's really important
what a retirement make showy,
I think it's really important to have, like, what we try to do is have a conversation of, let's look at today's needs, but with future in mind. So we're often having a conversation about, let's assess the person. Like, where are they at? Do they have dementia? Do they have another progressive illness? Do they, what's important to them? Because often, primarily we're speaking to families most of the time. And so is mom or dad living closer to you important? Like, what are we will prompt questions that people might not even think about, right? And the key, the problem is when you go to Google, you're going to be faced with 5-6 pages of retirement homes that pop up. And each one of those, and I know this because I used to do this, is all using language to entice you to inquire. And then you're then faced with a salesperson or a leasing agent. And we always tell people, actually when people call us, we'll give them a list of observations and questions and things like that. But we always say, before you make that decision, you want to make sure that you meet with the general manager. You want to make sure you meet with the director of care. You want to do a couple of things, because like, it's fascinating to me that people will make a decision after a 1 hour visit of like a 1 hour minute of time in a retirement residence that's going to be caring for your loved one, especially those that have assisted living needs and maybe more vulnerable and can't speak for themselves. You want to do a little bit more due diligence, I would say. And then the other thing is, the pricing is all different. So there's no standard pricing. Long-term care, things are standardized. Everybody asks me about long-term care. People will call me and say, which long-term care would you choose? And I said, well, long-term care is different. It's like, it's very hard to quantify. And I'll tell you how I quantify it, which again, it's just me. This is kind of how I would put them in buckets. Is long-term care is owned by 3 different organizations. So you've got privately run long-term care facilities. Usually the same owners as retirement homes, but they're privately owned. You have nonprofits and you have municipal. And so you can kind of put them in different buckets and kind of analyze them that way. And there's definitely some points, but in terms of how they are governed and pricing and services and all of that sort of thing, it's generally the same because it's governed by the province and subsidized by the province. Retirement homes aren't like that. They're all privately owned. You may have a handful that are subsidized through the city with it used to be called a DOM hostel program, but it's now called residential services, which those aren't licensed retirement homes, really. They are something else. Again, could be a good option for somebody. There's options for everyone, right? So I'm not discounting those. We do have those in our pocket of information. But retirement homes, traditional ones, there's not really a standard in pricing. Some people include everything. Some people don't. Some people include a few things. Then there's an a la carte pricing. Some pricing might be tiered, 3 tiers for each kind of services you need. So, when it comes to financial, because there's two things you're looking at. You're looking at, am I comfortable with this retirement home caring for my mom and dad? And can I afford this retirement home for mom and dad long term? And there's a bit of a strategy in terms of thinking about those things. And our team kind of helps break it down in a way that you're able to make a bit more of an informed decision or understand it a bit more, I suppose. And they definitely liaise with the homes for you and things like that. Like, when you call Solva, we're going to do an assessment. We're going to talk to you about your needs. We're going to educate you about the industry and how it all works and answer all your questions from a completely impartial standpoint. And then they're going to go out and find the options within your needs and explain them to you, and then kind of like handhold you through all of the next steps, liaise, make sure you have somebody that can help you understand things, And at no point is there an obligation to move in somewhere and or pay Solva anything for that conversation. So it's some people said, did you start a nonprofit? And I said, well, it's kind of works that way, but it's not a nonprofit, just from a logistical standpoint. But yeah, like, there's lots of things that you're not going to know unless you research it yourself. And again, I think for somebody that's researched things in other industries, you're always kind of second guessing. You're like, oh, did I get that right? Did I understand that right? But when you have that neighbor next door kind of business where they come and you can go and ask somebody questions to make sure to validate what you're thinking or to help answer something and not try to sell you anything. It's a nice phone number to have.
Definitely. And that's quite a gift that you give, because I think, it's a gift of time. We all need time. So,
and the key to Solva is that, and this is going to sound however it sounds, but like, I never started Solva with the intent of becoming rich or wealthy or any of those things. It was always meant to, cover our costs, make sure like all of our team gets paid salary. They don't get paid commission. They get paid a good wage. So all we're looking for is to cover our costs. And we do that. And we're very happy to help people, and nobody's trying to make millions of dollars from this. We're just really trying to help people navigate. And it feels if you talk to anybody on the Solva team, when we're able to help somebody through a tough time, because the reality with this is, I would say people are getting a little better, but most people wait until it's a crisis and then they're like scrambling to find something. So Solva is really, really good in a rapid response situation. And like, we feel great and we love helping people that are like, okay, we're mom's in hospital. They're telling us discharge date is this day. And we're like, we got you. We're going to narrow it down for you, get you all the available options within your price point. And we can do that really quickly. Why can we do that quickly? Because we know all the retirement homes. We have them on speed dial. We can talk to them in ways that you might not be able to. I mean, we can, because sometimes you'll call a place and have to leave a message and then you're playing a bit of phone tag. For us, we're able to get through fast and able to help you find something quickly. And that could be for a short stay. That could be for a long stay. So Heidi, you asked me a question and I can see it on the side of the screen. I can't multitask, so I'm reading it.
What are the top 3 questions you ask clients?
Because you've made the relationship with the people. You have that.
I would say, like,
my internet is a little off.
That's okay. We can read them. My conversations with clients is very holistic, right? So it's kind of like this, like, I'm going to just have a generic conversation with you and get to know you. Okay, this is going to sound however it sounds, but for me, what my process is, as I get to know you and as I hear you talking and as I get to know and learn more, buildings actually start popping up in my head. So, I'm going to learn more about what mom likes to do on a daily, like, what does her day look like? What are her challenges right now? So, like, what's our mobility like? How do we mobilize around the house? I might not suggest, if we're having mobility impairment, a very large building might be a challenge because the suite might be very far down the hallway and walking to the elevator might impede mom or dad's independence. Like, I always want to promote, no matter what the ability is, independence, because the more you're able to walk, the more you can maintain your independence, right? So I'm going to be looking at things like that. When I get to know a client a little bit more about what they like and don't like, I might even start thinking about the environment of different retirement homes, right? So there's nuances, and I've been in every retirement home, and there's nuances in each one. And as I said, they just start popping up into my head. I can start picturing and visualizing people, what's important to them, how do they want to live, what does mom's future look like, how do they want mom's future to look like, how do they want mom to live, say that there's a cognitive impairment. I mean, everybody's stereotype is seniors staring at walls. And, I try to be mindful of that, this is not, we don't want that for mom down the road. Like, how do you want mom to live? For example, we have a couple of retirement homes that do dementia care in Ottawa so well. Like, the level of activity and engagement and busy the residents are completely busts that stereotype. Like, so when you're talking to a family and you're starting to talk about, okay, mom's independent right now, but she's got a diagnosis of dementia. This is how we want to live moving forward. If it's in their budget, I might bring up some of these other homes. But if I know what the budget is, I'm not going to also create a false hope in somebody that, this place over here is $10,000 and mom's going to have the Ritz-Carlton of dementia care, because unfortunately that's not going to be a realistic thing. But there's other places with maybe a compromise in there. Then you're also having a conversation at the same time about transition. And so, because of my long-term care background, I'm often having a conversation about strategy, because I do believe that long-term care, elder care, retirement residence is a strategy. So in long-term care or retirement, you might be saying, okay, so we have dementia diagnosis, but we're mild. We're still able to socialize and engage and have those conversations, but we want to be in a safe environment. Okay, so we're looking at independent supported living with a transition down the road to memory care or assisted living. And then we want to also have a conversation about transitioning to long-term care. And long-term care, believe it or not, a lot of people are not on a list for long-term care. So I kind of give them a heads up to say, if you're not on the list, you're not going to be on the list when you need it. So the thing about long-term care, you have to qualify, but being on the list is like your plan B in a way. If your plan is to stay at the retirement home forever, great, they can do that. And I've gotten into multiple debates with many, many, many people about how retirement homes have a capacity of care. No, the difference between retirement homes and long-term care facilities is money for the most part. That's just what it is. But not all retirement homes are able to do heavy care, but they can. Some can. And some people want mom or dad to live in a more autonomous environment that the retirement home will deliver. You have to be a little bit more mindful and watching, involved when it becomes heavy care. But the thing, if you're not on that list for long-term care, even if you've decided to stay in retirement, it's the what and if could happen that down the road, long-term care may become required. You can always decline it when they offer it to you. And yes, there is consequences to that and things like that, but you're not on the list. So you're starting from scratch when you need it. And that's never a great place to be. Yeah.
And the lists are quite long. Yeah.
We do try to keep track of the lists. Like there's lists within lists. So we do try, and Ontario Health at Home changes as well. But so here's there is a list for so the way that long-term care works is you have privates, semi-privates, and basics. And there's a different list for each one of those. So say if you are looking at long-term care X, the length of the list may be different for each one of the size of the suite. So when you're selecting long-term care, you kind of want to ask for that waiting list times, and they do produce it. You have to ask for it. And then you can kind of see like, okay, well, I think these are my top 5. If I go on to a semi-private, it might be less of a wait than a private. So there's different things you can do like that. But again, like I said, a lot of it is strategy. Aging at home is strategy. I'm often asked, and I actually love doing this. I haven't done it in a very, very long time. So if anybody ever wanted me to do it, it's one of my favorite things to do, is to go in and have a conversation with a group or even with an individual to say, these are the reasons. If you want to stay, it's important that you understand the reasons why people want to move and why people have to move. So if you want to stay, then you want to make sure that if you got to put things in place to prevent or do everything you can to prevent the reasons why people have to move. Because oftentimes, as I said earlier, it becomes a crisis, and then you're being told you have to move. You're no longer in the driver's seat. I find it really, really fascinating as a society that we tend to not, we plan for life. We plan for trips. We plan for our kids. We plan for things. We plan for death. So there's a whole business on funeral planning, but we don't seem to plan for elder care until we actually need it. And if you're making decisions in crisis on your own, you may or may not make the right decision or have optimized all the opportunities that the individual could have had should you have planned it earlier. And that goes for aging at home, that goes for retirement home, and that goes for long-term care as well.
Yeah, definitely. So it's important for them to reach out to you early, right?
So definitely to start a conversation and start thinking about things.
Yeah.
My mom is now going through some things. So my mom's 82. She's sharp as a whip, becoming a little bit more frail. But sometimes you don't need a physical, like oftentimes when it becomes a crisis and we're getting these phone calls for rapid response help, it's because something happened and the hospital is now saying, yeah, you really shouldn't be going home anymore. But for the ones that are still independent at home, we often say in the retirement industry that you couldn't, if you would have chosen to move earlier, you could have enjoyed many, many things more than having to move in a crisis. What I mean by that is, like in my mom's situation, my mom lives alone. She's kind of got her little routine going. But, you know, I can start to see a little isolation. I can start to see that if, you know, anything happened, we're going to be in that situation of making that decision in crisis. But if she were to go and choose to move sooner, she would enjoy the companionship, the social life, the activity. She would enjoy all of those things. And like, even just, you don't need to be a social person. Like just going and having a meal with other people in a conversation might be all it takes to have that kind of stimulation that your brain needs as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, what I'm suggesting to my mom is we're gonna be looking for something for the winter months, and a lot of retirement homes do this, right? So those colder months, where I would say all retirement homes do this, those colder months that can be exceptionally isolating, where you can't get out, you're cooking for ones, you're not having great meals, you're isolated. It's a great time to go and try without committing to a permanent move. And so that's kind of what we're looking at for my mom. And this is advice that I would give to everybody. Like if, you know, you're seeing your loved one not really kind of become socially withdrawn, that might be the gateway to other things. And a winter stay is a great way to try it out and give them the stimulation that they need, that they might not be having right now. You know, it's funny, and I know I'm doing all the talking here, but it's not funny. It's funny, but not funny. It's funny in the sense that when I talk about retirement residences, I can kind of, the reasons why I can classify the reasons why people need to move. And social isolation is the first thing that you see, like if it's like at the top of the pyramid. So when it comes to, sorry guys, I don't know how to turn that off. It might go again. So I like the social isolation is at the top of the pyramid. And so when you and social isolation is something that you don't see coming. So, like it can go on for a very, very long time. And after that, when you become more and more withdrawn, you know, then you might forget things. You might forget to take your meds. You might forget to not eat properly. And then from that, you might be risk of a fall. And then it just kind of spirals from there. So when I say it's funny, not funny, it's that I'm actually seeing it in real time with my loved one when I talk about it a lot with others. And I love that I'm able to give people my kind of educational advice. I'm really sorry about the dinging. Somebody is trying to have a chat with me. So I I have it from the experience with other people and loved ones, and I now have it firsthand with my own. And it's different when it's your own. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I'm sure that you're probably able to see the value, even maybe even more, now that you're going through it yourself, the value of what you offer. In terms
I think, well, I mean, so I will tell you this. So I have been attending my mom's doctor's appointment. So I've just started this. And what's fascinating to me is that I know the industry and I know what to ask and I know how to speak to the healthcare professionals, where if I would leave her go on her own, the things, the resources that are available, the medication analysis, those things would not be happening if I wasn't there. And the thing is, I know what to ask. So many family members don't know what to ask. Like, I'm going to an appointment tomorrow, and my family's like, "Oh, could your brother go?" And I said, "No, he doesn't know what to ask. He doesn't know what to say." So that's the kind of stuff that Solva offers, is that kind of education about how do I handle these situations, but also I need help right now. What do I do? And Solva will help you figure out what help you need when it comes to navigating the senior housing perspective quickly, very, very quickly. I mean, that's the big part of what we do, is we help people primarily in crisis, but we'll talk to anybody anytime about anything. So, yes, we're grateful that Solva has been able to do that for, like I said, 13 years now. And we continue moving forward. And we do think that we're unique in the sense that there's just absolutely no obligation to us. We're humble in the sense that we don't we're not out there actively marketing ourselves in this grand way. We are just who we are, and we get through every day the same way, and we share what we know, and we love to educate people on how this all works. And we're always learning. So like I said, with my mom, I like seeing it in real time. You're like, oh yeah, that's happening. That is actually, I'm seeing it firsthand, social isolation and what that looks like in an elderly person. And I would really like to prevent any more any level of urgent crisis with her. That's my mission, is to let's get the things in place to make sure you're supported right now, because we've transitioned from super independent to maybe a little bit less super independent, and I think there's many other people in the exact same situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is amazing information.
That's a lot.
It's awesome. So if you are in crisis and you're looking for help, the information is below. Reach out to Solva. And I can't believe that the half hour has gone so quickly.
And if you're not in crisis,
do it anyway.
We just want to pick our brains.
If you're not in crisis and you are starting to think ahead.
Yes,
that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you have a final thought, Christine, as to what to tell people?
Okay, this is going to sound cheesy. I would say spend less time researching, because that's what people do. Spend hours and hours and hours and hours on Google. Just give us a call. We'll break it down for you really quickly. We'll answer every question you have from an independent, impartial basis. And you can spend more time with your loved one, more valuable time with them. Yeah. And we can make it much more simple for you. But I do see people doom scrolling, trying to figure out how this all works. And unfortunately, you'll never get to the bottom, because there's just so much information.
Yeah, it's information overload for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing talk. And hopefully we'll have you back again sometime soon.
This was fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Come back and join us again.